Hey, this is Stan, and I get to be first for a change. And I'm in Gainesville, and it's Saturday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Good morning, this is Brackley coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada. And today we are talking about what city you should base your design career in, learning moving lights without moving lights, choosing the right grad program, which new technology should students be taught, and keeping quiet to survive. All on Light Talk.
This is Jordan, also coming from Las Vegas, and today I am honored to be Lumen Brother host of the day on Light Talk.
And this is David, coming to you from the beautiful Belmont Shore neighborhood of Long Beach, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers. Welcome, everyone, to episode 252. And today we are welcoming Jordan Hall as our first Lumen Brother host of the day on Light Talk. Just so that everyone knows why Jordan is our first Lumen Brother guest host of the day, way back in November at our live LDI show, Jordan won the grand prize that we had for our live studio audience. You see, each member whose question was chosen to be on the show got a not ready for dishwasher Light Talk coffee mug. But one of those crappy mugs had a mark on it. And the person who chose that mug was the lucky winner to be Lumen Brother host of the day. And that person is sitting right here with us, and that is Jordan Hall.
Yay!
I think it's possible that was fixed because Jordan knows a Lumen Brother.
No,
was there a little bit of shenanigans
fixed.
going
no,
on
no
there?
shenanigans. Listen, Stan, you weren't there. We had these I
thought I was there. I thought it was my face on the mug.
No, it wasn't. No, that would have been funny. We had 10 mugs for the people who actually submitted questions and were chosen to submit to have the questions read. People came up and they grabbed the mug. But here's the deal: the mark on the mug. This says a lot actually for Jordan. There was the mark on the mug was a chip. It was a chip at the edge of the lip of it. And everyone looked at it, and a couple of people saw it and put it down and picked a different one. All right?
See, look, so they didn't know it was
totally
a special
random.
chip.
Something, Jordan realized that not everything is perfect, and sometimes imperfection is beautiful. So, Jordan, you deserve what you're going to get today. That's all I have to say.
He doesn't know what he's in for.
Hey, Jordan, welcome to Light Talk.
Thank you. I'm very honored to be here. So, I'm a student here at UNLV, a first-year graduate student in lighting design, and we are actually working on the first production of the semester, which will be the one that I get to design, the Bow Stratagem.
So anyway, I just think it's beautiful that Jordan's here with us. And Jordan, just act like a Lumen Brother, which means you just have to be insane. Everything is cool, but tell us how you feel. All right, so let's get on with the show. And Stan has the first question.
Oh, it's so nice to come back and be treated with such respect. But what's wrong with you guys? It says Simone from Paris. Whoa, I love Paris. In fact, I was on the phone with two Europeans today, one from Lisbon and one from Italy.
They want to go to Gainesville?
It's a long story. It's a research. If they want to do research with me, and they don't know what they're in for. No idea. So Simone from Paris says, I'm a student in the academy. Okay. Unfortunately, we do not have any moving lights in our inventory. How do I get experience in learning how to use this technology in my designs? Well, I'm assuming Simone is a woman. Well, girl, this is easy. And you asked just the right guy because it sort of is a problem, right? And if you want to learn to work with something you don't have, and you want to maybe work at scale, a scale that you're not used to, maybe really large, you got to work virtually. And everybody on this show knows that I'm the Mr. Visualizer guy. I've been pushing visualization for 23 years. And now what's nice to see is I'm seeing this in students coming to auditions who want to come to the program, and they're showing visualization work. It's now becoming part of the curriculum. So all you got to do is get yourself either some software that comes packaged with a visualizer, some of the console manufacturers have that. I think Grand MA has that. I think ETC has that. Now, the Johnny come lately, ETC, right, on this one. And there's Capture, there's WYSIWYG, there's LS8, there's, my goodness, there's a whole bunch of them. So get your favorite visualizer, lay your moving lights in, connect to a console, and it doesn't even have to be a hard console. It can be just the software, and plug it in and go to town. And then I would also add, depending upon what console or visualizer you're using, there's tons on YouTube, right, of people who have been generous and sat down and showed you how to get started and get going if you're not, but you're in school. Now, wait a minute. I maybe misread the question. You're a student. If your teacher, can I be a little bit mean here?
Ooh, be careful, like, Stan. That's one of the reasons why you're not on the show a lot now.
That's right.
We've been getting a lot of letters.
She's French. She can handle a little meanness. Okay. All right. So tell your professor, get on the stick and get you a visualizer at your school. And they don't even cost anything anymore. They almost all have, or very little, they all have student versions. And if you want, you can reach out to me directly or any of the Lumen Brothers who can point you in the right direction for visualizers. And that's how you do it, I think. Or rent a couple of lights. Or ask your local manufacturer to, like, ask Brackley. He knows everybody in Las Vegas. They'll send a bunch of lights right.
She's not in Las Vegas.
It's a big city.
So okay, so they're going
to big shipping costs.
The shipping costs are not. He'll be stuck on a ship right outside of Long Beach.
I think they've got lights in Paris.
Oh my God! Okay,
I couldn't agree with Stan more. I think he's very right on this whole topic. If you don't have the moving lights, the best way to learn is a visualizer. Mm-hmm. Pick one.
Yeah, visualizers are cool. Hey, Jordan, have you used visualizers? I mean, what do you think about this question?
Yeah, for me personally, I haven't had any experience with the visualizers, but for me, how I gained the experience was going outside of my undergraduate school and working with my internship where they did have moving light fixtures, and that's where I started building kind of my knowledge regarding those types of lights.
Oh, wait, so you went out to like professional companies and started working with moving lights? Is that what you're saying?
Wouldn't necessarily say professional company, but just a theater that we had in our community near my undergraduate program.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and as the other thing I was going to suggest is that maybe get a part-time job with one of the local lighting companies that actually uses moving lights, and they rent them out, and they'll probably use you as a programmer as well. And that way you learn how to use moving lights. That's another way of doing it. But I think the visualizer is the best way because you can do it for very little money. You can do it at your own pace and do your own shows, do your own songs or whatever you want to design. So, yeah.
In your own house.
In your own house. That's right.
The nice thing about the visualizer methodology is if you want to get to know a theater that you don't know, mm-hmm. and you can get the plans, even just a floor plan, or you can build the space. Let's say you want to. I had a student, just a quick story. She wanted to do the opening ceremonies of the Olympics. That's her dream project. So she can get a football stadium you can find a football stadium at the 3D warehouse, download it, and lay that into your visualizer, and then start lighting on a football stadium. So you can get to know any venue you want to get to know. And knowing the venue is a big part of being able to manage your design in various scales and styles.
Cool. Well, Jordan has our next listener question.
Tyrone from Lucaya asks, how should I choose my graduate school? I'm going through the ERTA process, and all these professors are working hard trying to sell their programs. What should I look for? Well, having been a former undergraduate student looking for a graduate school, I would say the most important thing is, one, determining what it is that you want to get out of graduate school in general, and then understanding what certain programs can provide you with and how that can push you towards your future and your career that you see as far as going into lighting design. So for me, I want to stay in the general realm of theater, but one of the most important things for me during grad school would be making connections, and I felt like where I'm going now, just to make a shameless plug, UNOV, definitely its location in itself will provide me with that just because it is a huge entertainment location. So there are a lot of those opportunities and connections in the program. So that's what I was looking for personally, but I think that's the number one question to ask when looking for grad schools.
Good answer. Stan, what do you think?
I have a one-word answer. You should be looking for love.
In all the wrong places.
Okay, if you can't find, if you don't, I mean, to Tyrone's point.
Tyrone.
Oh, that's Tyrone's answer. I don't know where Lucaya is. Where's Lucaya, by the way?
Lucaya is in Grand Bahama Island. He's a Bahamian.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
Yes.
I'll have to go there.
That's beautiful.
So I do. I kind of. I say that tongue in cheek, looking for love, but I actually mean that in this sense that a lot of the programs are all really good. There's a lot of decent lighting programs in the country, and they all have something different to offer. And you gotta love certain things. First of all, the person is gonna be your mentor. If you can't tolerate them for 15 minutes, you're not going to tolerate them for 15 months. Okay, so you're going to be around that person a lot. And so I don't say you have to love them, but you sort of got to be able to tolerate them and say, this is somebody I really want to be around. So I think that is true. Now, you mentioned, Jordan, about geography. I think that does matter. Some people want to be in a big city. Some people want to be in a college town. Some people want to be on the East Coast, the West Coast. If you want to also interested in film, maybe you want to be in California. So the geography does matter. I think that, and if you're interested in themed work, or some people like Orlando, some people like Las Vegas. So there's a lot of different reasons. So I think the look for is got to be, as you said, Jordan, internal first. Look internally and figure out, take in the inventory of yourself, and then see which program fits the things that you've figured out about yourself. And that's a really good method, because there's got to be at least 7 good programs that earn it.
Right. At least.
So, I'm not saying anything. That's all I have to say.
Well, and the other thing is, all professors are trying to sell their programs,
That's right.
but also you need to go to the individual campus you might be interested in.
Yep.
And interview the students without the professor in the room, because I think then you'll find out from the student's perspective what the program's really like.
You don't have to go to the campus to do that. Make sure that you ask whoever's recruiting you for a list and contact information from the present students there, and you can contact them from where you are. So I would do that first before I even, commit to going to visit a campus.
Well, or on Zoom. We do these Zoom calls with them. And also alumni, reach out to alumni, send alumni from our school, and they can just talk to them. How was the program?
Right.
Yeah, I wanted to just add a couple of things. I think David hit my point as well. You definitely, in Brackley, you want to talk to current students. And we're kind of coming to this notion of equity a lot at my school. And so I used to pretty much force a student to come to campus if they were interested in my program. And I'm realizing that that's maybe a little bit, what's the right word? Not everybody can afford it.
Right.
So I'm starting to loosen up on that and now that we're all sort of more comfortable in electronic mediums, that sort of maybe in some ways is, it's an inequity. It's sort of, so if people can't, so I'm being less forceful about you've got to come to campus. And the last point I would make is this alumni point that I think David made. I will usually also give websites to many of our former students for prospective students to look at, so they can see where those students are, what they're doing, and the quality of their work.
Absolutely.
And I was just going to say, let's be honest, you could do both. For instance, a student can come out to Southern California and visit 7 great schools, okay? But a student, if you go to Gainesville, you're going to visit 1 great school, right? So you could do both.
You could visit Florida State.
Florida State. I'm just kidding.
No, that's a point. That's a point. We're in a college town.
You're in a college town, right? And it's but anyway, that being said, you could do both. You could do a Zoom thing with Gainesville, and then you could actually get your butt on an airplane and come out to Southern California and go to UCI, Cal Arts, UCLA.
Bunch of them.
Yeah, they're just a bunch of schools out here. So anyway, that being said, just use your money wisely and use your time wisely.
But back to Jordan's point, if inventory yourself, if you don't want to live in a big city, then a college town might be for you. But if you do want a big city, then don't even bother coming to Gainesville, right? You might already figure that out in advance. Right.
And last year we had to not have anybody come out because we're in the middle of the pandemic. So I took my iPhone around campus, did this for Jordan and Hasmin, where I showed them the campus and all the facilities with my iPhone on FaceTime.
That's cool. But let's look at the big picture here. And I'm going to go back to my own personal experience. When I was an undergrad and I was looking for a grad school, and I knew I was going to Yale. I just knew it. I was just going to go to Yale. That's where everybody went, the whole bit, right?
Well, what happened?
What happened was I met this wonderful woman named Theron Musser. And she asked me about what I was planning on doing. And I told her I'm going to go to Yale. And she said, no. She goes, yeah, I wouldn't go to Yale, not in your situation, because you're a musician and you're a designer, and
Right.
Yale's not going to let you do music there. So you need to go to SMU, where at the time Bill and Gene Eckhart were, and they believed in music because they were from the musical world. And sure enough, they allowed me to compose and take music classes and that. Now, that being said, that was a very specific thing, but you may fall into that specific area as well, because everybody is different. Well, I was just fortunate that I found someone who told me, who actually realized it because she knew my background and said, no, actually, you need to look elsewhere. You don't look at NYU. You don't look at Yale. You need to look at this other school.
Well, talk about different. I wanted to learn how to do hula dancing.
That's how you ended up in Hawaii. I didn't know this.
That's right. And there was really only one place to go for that.
That's right.
And that was 6,000 miles away in the middle of the Pacific. Talk about not going to a big city. But you know what? But interestingly, it's funny that you kind of make that point, David. Why did I end up in Hawaii? Is I had, in Brooklyn, New York, I had a theater history professor who was the editor of the Asian Theater Journal, and who had gone to, and he had gone to the University of Hawaii, and I said, Sam, you went to UH? He goes, yeah, it was great, and I realized then that everybody on the East Coast of the United States, their theater sort of mentality looked to Europe, and the East Coast looks over the Atlantic to Europe, and so everybody had a European theater background, and I said, but how many people in New York know much about Asian theater? Almost no one. And so I wanted to differentiate myself, and I'm always interested in doing something different. And the Lumen Brothers would attest to that. So I did that.
Right.
So, so it's just like David said, everybody's different.
Do your research. It just gets down to doing research of all the schools and where they are. Okay, Tina from Miami asks, I just got a large amount of money to buy new technology for my undergraduate school. I already have LED Lecos and a couple dozen moving lights. We also have an ETC Geo for a controller. What technology should I consider? Well, I think Simone should transfer to Miami first and get the education. So new technology, well, I think, getting a visualization program. Also, possibly you have the Geo, which is a great board, but learning on other boards is also important. So getting an MA or getting a HOG would be great investments as well.
Definitely ask the students. That was one of the biggest things I enjoyed in my undergrad program, that we were fortunate enough to get new equipment while I was designing, and I was able to put input on what equipment we were going to get just because it would be equipment that I would be using. So definitely ask the students what they would like to see in the space.
I'm going to diverge a little bit from lighting. So motion capture, artificial intelligence software, projection software, and probably the most expensive equipment you'll see in a theater, scenic automation and automated rigging. You can see more and more and more of that. So if you've got money to burn, those are the places that I would want my students to be prepared to use. Right now, we have a new faculty member in artificial intelligence, and they're doing all this mo capture, black tracks, for example, the lifetime tracking. I mean, that kind of stuff, the stuff that most of us don't have, right? Or are hungry to get it. I would start with those toys, because if you've got extra money, think about what's happening in the industry that the schools don't have at the moment.
That goes well with projections as well.
Yeah, Stan, you stole my thunder. I usually steal your thunder, but this time you stole mine, because that's exactly what I was going to say. But there's one issue, though, we don't know about. And it sounds like Tina is a faculty member, and she's from an undergraduate school. I don't know which school it is. It could be FIU, who knows. And she's asking about what new technology. When you decide what it should be, you got to make sure you have someone who can teach it. So it's not only funding for the actual hardware and software, but it's also funding for either training for you, Tina, or for a person to bring in for a semester or two to teach it. So that's really, really important.
Well said, David. Well said.
Yep.
Because UPS can deliver the gear, but you need flesh. You need flesh and bones.
Hey, the UPS
Flesh,
guy can
bones,
do it. Get the UPS
Yeah,
driver.
like I used to. You need flesh, bones, and brains.
Somebody needs to
too.
turn it on.
And not blow it up.
Yes.
That's the worst thing. You have like this $200,000 piece of gear, and you say, "Oh, let's plug it in here."
We had that happen to a Christie projector where the guy was changing out the lenses, and I mean, those things are sensitive. David's point is very well taken. You need the appropriate staff as well.
Well, that's one of the things that we always talk about when we're consulting for churches and other places, and they're saying we want all this moving light stuff. We want all who do you have to maintain it? Forget about controlling it, maintain.
Well,
we have some volunteers.
We have Bob. He comes every Sunday.
That's right.
Bob comes every Sunday.
So, not to say that Bob can't be trained, but there needs to be money for that training. Yeah.
It's like buying 30 grand pianos and not having a piano tuner,
Yeah.
Well, you are listening to Light Talk, and today, Light Talk is sponsored by
the good people at Travel Hack Luggage Company. Traveling from gig to gig was hard enough before the pandemic, but now with COVID madness turning travelers into characters from Mad Max, traveling on an airplane can turn into an episode of Survivor. What can a mild-mannered lighting designer do armed with only a pathetic carry-on from Target? Well, the Travel Hack Luggage Company has just the bag for you. Our new solar-powered lighting designer travel bag. What makes this bag different from all the others? Well, the solar-powered lighting designer travel bag has everything you need to survive that 12-hour flight to Scandinavia. Along with the typical integrated padded pockets for your laptop, toiletries, and dirty underwear, the solar-powered lighting designer travel bag also includes electrical outlets to internally power all your carry-on devices, like your laptop, your iPhone, and your favorite erotic toys. This helps distract you from the fistfights breaking out a few rows behind you. But what if those fights are too close for comfort? Then the solar-powered lighting designer travel bag has defense devices that would make Q proud. And we're not talking about the QAnon yahoos starting the fights. We're talking about Q from Q branch of the British Secret Service. Just turn the combo lock on the solar-powered lighting designer travel bag to activate the internal mini La Matra Stadium Hazer. In a matter of seconds, the plane cabin will be filled with Actors Equity approved smoke. No one will be able to see who they're fighting. Problem solved. And what about those times when you're stuck in the middle seat and your rowmates are inconsiderate morons? Well, the Travel Hack Luggage Company has come up with a new twist on an old solution. With a touch of a hidden secret button, double covered to prevent an accidental launch, a gaseous discharge made from the essence of the Metropolitan Opera prop crew 15 minutes after a coffee break is released from your bag. Watch as your rowmates run to find other seats. Goodbye, morons. Hello, vacant row. And when you want a drink while airborne, there's no need to wait for hours for a depressed flight attendant to take your order for some crappy liquor. The solar-powered lighting designer travel bag has an internal bar that features the lighting designer's favorite drink, the margarita to go. Have a few, and you won't care where you're flying to. Finally, when you are ready to land, there is no need to wait on endless bathroom lines to freshen up. Just open up your solar-powered lighting designer travel bag and do your wash-up and oral hygiene right at your seat. That's right. Moist towelettes are automatically heated 45 minutes before landing. Just spit your toothpaste into the bag and it will drain into the water supply for the margarita to go machine. See, we believe in recycling too. So throw away that old Samsonite carry-on and join the dystopian style of air travel with the Travel Hack Luggage Company solar-powered lighting designer travel bag. It's the only way to survive.
And now, back to Light Talk.
Well, the sound of those rabid ducks tells us that once again it's time for Let's Talk About. And today's Let's Talk About is all about making the move. As a young professional, what are the most important considerations when deciding what city to move to for your design career? Now, this is, I think, a very fascinating subject because we've all made our choices and we've all had that time we say, should I go to New York? Should I go to Chicago? Should I go to Milwaukee? Should I go to Hawaii? Where Honolulu, where are you going to base your design career? And sometimes it just happens. Sometimes you'll be working for someone, they say, hey, I'm taking you to Florida with me. Hey, I'm taking you to New York with me. And then you need to decide, is that where you want to be? So I'm going to open this up. And I think it's really interesting that Jordan's here with us today because he's going to be making this decision soon. So Jordan, why don't you tell us about your thoughts about this first? We'll start off with that.
I feel this is a very loaded question for me right now. I have no idea.
You don't have to make a commitment. You don't have to. You can say I'm moving to New York. You don't have to move to New York. Okay. So
but I definitely do have questions in mind that I'm considering. And the first one is, wherever I go, is that where I want to stay? And if I do stay there, am I able to grow with my career? Because once I come out of grad school, this for me, at least, will be the first time that I'm working professionally outside of an academic career and have no involvement in academia anymore. So from that point on, this is my full career. So I definitely want to make sure that wherever I do go, if one, I do want to stay there, do I see myself staying there and being able to build and grow as a lighting designer? And then two, if not, if I'm only here for, say, 5 years, then is there another place that I have in mind to go to in regards to being able to actually establish myself as a designer? Or do I want to travel, which is something I know that I don't want to do. But that is another consideration is, do I want to travel around and do work?
Well, that brings up a very interesting follow-up, Jordan, because let's say, you're working somewhere and someone gives you an opportunity to travel. Would you take that opportunity?
I think I would take the opportunity. As far as traveling, it's something I don't want to continuously do. If it came up where I had a show every now and then that would, take me across the country or out of the country, I would definitely be open to that. But I don't see myself continuously on the move as a designer.
It is one of those professions, unless you're in a city where you've got like a gig, like with some regional theater or whatever, that does happen, as a resident designer.
That is actually exactly what I want to do, what you just said.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think sometimes it's the job rather than where to move to. At least that's what I found in my career, trying to, I took a job and moved to a city, and it wasn't necessarily the best city, but it was a job and I enjoyed it for a time, and then I moved on. So that for me, it's not settling down right away.
Yeah, I would put this question in what I call the category of really daunting questions for young people.
Yeah.
And I think it's a bit of an overwhelming question. And I just remember this one piece of wisdom that I was given many years ago. But the question was not quite this. The question was different. It was like, what do you want to do? And parents would ask this, what do you want to do for the rest of your life?
When you grow up.
Or, when you grow up, right? What are you going to do when you grow up? And I think when you're 12 or 15 or even 23, that's a really daunting question because it seems like you're being asked to make a commitment for a period of time that you can't even imagine it being the rest of your life. So what this person told me, and this is how I would answer this question, is you got to sort of see your life in chunks or chapters. And you could sort of say, maybe the question is better thought about as, where do I want to move for the beginning of my career and sit down for 10 years or 5 years or 8 years? And that makes it a more digestible answer for yourself psychologically and recognizing that life, what is this? We're not really in control of this whole thing. And that's sort of a delusion. Things happen to us without our influence, and then we have to respond. So that preposition that your decision is sort of preordained or you have control over that, things are going to present themselves to you. So if you don't want to lock yourself down, so, okay, I'm going to go to, I went to Honolulu and I stayed 2 years right? And I didn't really, and I thought, well, maybe I'll settle in Hawaii. Well, I didn't, right? There were other circumstances that said you have to leave. I went back and visited, but you know, things in life happened that forced me to sort of make a different choice. So I never imagined I would live in this place. I mean, I hated Florida as a kid. It was hot and humid and sticky and full of roaches, as Brackley will tell you.
Bugs,
so I
filled
really,
with bugs.
Yeah, we don't have the bugs that he had. But my point is that I never really dreamed that this is where I would end up for at least, and I've been here for 20 years. And when I think about the rest of my life, I don't necessarily say, oh, this is where it's got to be, because an opportunity could come tomorrow. Like David's going to invite me to his big house on the mountain in Colorado, and I may move to Colorado. Who knows? So I think you just have to be a little bit philosophical about these questions. And to Brackley's point, you know, he got a job offer in a certain place, and he went, and he was there for a period of time, and then he moved. So there's this kind of thing that my wife and I say. I don't know where we got this, but whether you believe in God or not, you'll get the idea. It's like, you know, you just pedal the bicycle, and God will steer. Right? Just pedal. You just do the pedaling, and the steering is not really 100% under your control.
It's interesting, yeah, because things happen to you as you travel this journey of life. You know, I was just thinking, just ran through my brain, a lot of this also depends on the culture in your graduate school. I went to a grad school where everyone was expected to move to New York and become a New York designer. And for many, many generations of graduate students there, that's what happened. And everyone was being prepared to pass the union exam. That's basically what they taught us how to do. And we'd go to New York our third year, and we'd pass the union exam, and then we'd move to New York. And
it seems really rigid. It seems really from today's lens.
You're right, Stan. I think a sign of the times, things have changed. But, you know, that show you how, as you said, God, you know, steers, right? I was going to do that. I was going to go to New York. I took the union exam. I did the whole thing. And then on my first big portfolio review, I had 3 designers hire me immediately. But they were not for shows in New York. They were for shows in Miami and in Caracas. And then I ended up in Miami for a number of years. And it was because that's what happened to me in the moment as I was pedaling my bicycle. Gilbert steered for a second, and then Neil steered for a second, and then Ken steered for a second. So these people were steering my career, and I just took it. I just said yes, 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 because I knew that these experiences, no matter where they were, whether they be in New York or in Miami or wherever, Caracas, I was going to learn a lot. So if you think about, you know, after you graduate, that's not the end of your schooling, that your schooling has just begun. Your journey of learning has just begun, because I learned so much. I learned more in that first year out of grad school than all of my schooling, like all 7 years of my undergraduate and graduate schooling, because I was working with professional designers and I was in the profession. I was very fortunate. So I think it's really important not to think that there is an answer. And I think this is what Stan's saying, and Brackley and Jordan for that matter, that you take life moment to moment and you follow where life leads you. And you do have to make a decision now and then. Do I stay in Miami? Do I move away? You know, that's okay. You know, you got to do that. But that's what happens in this great journey.
And to that point, life changes, and if you meet a partner, and so that's a very important consideration what your partner wants to do and where they want to go, and it can get very complicated but that's what life's about.
Partners are great. It does add a little confusion, no doubt, but sometimes your happiness is your partner's happiness.
Exactly.
I'd like to add one last point for me on this, because David and Brackley know I'm a big fan of Daniel Kahneman, who wrote a great book called Thinking Fast and Slow, which I highly recommend to everyone. And here's one point about this that I think everybody should remember. People don't give enough weight to randomness in life. Right? There's a lot of randomness in life that has an undue influence upon us that we don't give it credit for. So recognizing that there's a lot of randomness will reduce your anxiety because you can sort of expect that random things are going to happen. And then you're a little bit more prepared to respond rather than be shocked. So again, thinking fast and slow, randomness is undervalued and underexpected in life.
All of this is just reminding me of something that my advisor back in undergrad said, and he told me that he does theater because it doesn't feel like work, and the moment that it does, that he will leave. And I feel like that kind of leads to some of this as well, as far as like where you want to go and be, and where you want to stay with your career. And I think that's really important because, for me at least, I believe that work shouldn't feel like work, because I would think that most people like to love what they do and they want to wake up each day and be happy with what they do. So I think that's important to keep in mind as well.
That's a beautiful way to end off this discussion. Thank you. Well, Jordan has our last question of the day.
Derek from Chicago asks, I am a lighting student and find myself disagreeing with my teachers. I don't want to be a jerk, so I just keep my mouth shut. Is this a good strategy?
No,
it is not.
That's horrible
Let
strategy.
Jordan answer it. I want to hear what Jordan has to say on this one.
In my academic career, I haven't had too many issues where I've had a completely a horrible disagreement with the professor. Definitely not here at UNLV.
Oh,
Not
of
yet.
course not. He's sitting right next to you, by the way.
So, I mean, but I have had instances where my friends do have pretty big altercations with their professors. And I think the most important thing just with any disagreement is just communication, because I think that's the root of a lot of problems that we have in this world in general. But I think that if you are able to bear that conversation with that professor, definitely giving the time to speak with them, to communicate with them, because a lot of the times you just might have a different understanding or they might have a different perspective. And if you can't have that conversation with them, if you feel like it will be too much of a negative space, then finding maybe another professor on campus that you're comfortable speaking to about that situation, I think that would be the best approach, at least from my perspective.
Okay, well, Jordan, I think that was really practical advice, and I think it's good advice. I would only add this. So, as a lighting designer, there's one skill that we don't necessarily focus on formally, but it's really important, and that is diplomacy. And diplomacy is the lubricant of all relationships, right? And so when you're sitting in that tech table, and the costume designer wants their work to look good, and the set designer wants their work to look good, and the director wants their work to look good, and the stage manager is trying to figure out the cues. You are at the nexus of all these people wanting their stuff, and you've got to be diplomatic. And and because you could blow it all up. So I think diplomacy, when you have a disagreement, how you bring that disagreement forward is really important, and recognizing that human beings, in the last 150 years, we like to think of ourselves as rational creatures. I have news for you. We are not. We are not rational. We have trained ourselves to think we're rational, and we try to be rational. But the truth is we're emotional creatures, right? And so Abraham Lincoln was brilliant at this. Abraham Lincoln understood, I don't know how, the emotions of people, and tempered his behavior, recognizing how his actions would affect the emotions of others, ultimately to achieve the goals he had in mind. So I think, like lately, there's a lot of political upheaval. I'm not going into a politics question, but here's just a really important precept. There's politics in my kitchen tonight, okay, with my wife. There's politics everywhere. So, and the same thing in any kind of a disagreement. So you need two things. You can't have good policies or good ideas without good politics, and you can't have good politics without good ideas. They go hand in hand. So when you're confronting that disagreement, learn from others, look for wisdom in how to handle those conflicts in a diplomatic way.
That's good. As I tell all my students that I never want to have any of them fester anything in their mind. So I want them to, it's called when I take blood pressure. I'll have them in the, talk to them one-on-one and ask them how they're doing. And if they feel very free that if they don't agree with something, they'll tell me. So I think that's what Jordan said, the transparency is so important.
And I agree with all of you guys, because it is important that you do have the training to do this, because there's nothing like that pressure at the tech table. But Stan, I want to remind you of something that Neil Jampolis said on our show. The reason why he likes to direct, be the costume designer, set designer, and lighting designer.
Control.
Because he doesn't have to argue with anybody.
Right.
He doesn't need diplomacy.
It's scotch at the tech table.
Oh, he doesn't have scotch at the tech table. That's not Neil. Neil never drank.
That's Richard Pilbrow. He had the scotch.
Yes, that's someone else. But Neil certainly did like to have control.
With that great coat he had, with that great raccoon coat that
raccoon
Stan wore at
coat,
Erda one year.
Oh, that was a fantastic coat. The rocking sounds of the Luminoids tells us that once again you've spent another morning listening to Light Talk. You can hear our show on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Google, YouTube, livedesignonline.com, Amazon Prime Music, and just about every podcast site out there. Check out our website on lighttalk.org for future guests, and be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk insanity.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
let me just assure you that the same law firm that the University of Florida uses is not the one that we use.
Thank God.
So in case you decide to litigate, the law firm of Flecht, Flock, Flair, and Glare, the best lawyers on the block, and their paralegal snoot will defend us until every nickel of our retirement funds are gone.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers, coming to you from Gainesville, Long Beach, and Las Vegas.
And be sure to join us next week where we chat about even more useless things and explore the crazy shenanigans of our industry.
We are Light Talk, and we are broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor and Jordan around the world.
Well, we want to thank once again for Jordan Hall for being our guest Lumen Brother of the Day.
thank you, Jordan.
Thank you guys for having me.
And of course, the voice of Light Talk, Miss Lori Cooper. And we'll see you all next Saturday morning. Bye-bye from Light Talk.